All right, guys, so I'm here at 830 yards with the Savage. This is a Model 10 in 308, and I like shooting this thing. Even on a windy day, it's kind of fun to get out and shoot this, and it is pretty windy out today. It's 10 to 13 mile an hour winds, but I think it's going to start calming down a little bit. Even my flags right now at 300 do not look bad at all, and so I think it's going to calm down a little bit. Hoping all the way here just a little bit more, but either way I'm going to take some shots. I just have 5 shots of 175 grain SMKs. I'm going to go ahead and throw in here. I noticed that in some of the videos I've done a lot of standing or positional stuff with this tripod from Athlon, but I have not done anything sitting with it in a video. And you know, 830 yards on an IPSC target, I'm sure a lot of people who shoot competitions, stuff like this would not be that challenging to them. For me, it is still a challenge, and I'm still learning how to do this, but I just thought it would be enjoyable. Throw a couple down there. I think the wind's dying off just a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead. Yep, it's definitely dying off. I'm going to go ahead and take some shots. One thing I like to do, I like to use one of my sport bags under my hip. I'm not super flexible, and I don't seem to get around the tripod very well. Some people hug it with their legs, and I don't really like to do that. I like to get up on it and get the proper eye relief, and I go ahead and lock down the tripod as much as it allows you to. One thing I did have to do is inside the arc head itself, there's an Allen that goes into the ball, and I did have to tighten that down. It loosened up on me at a certain point. It was very noticeable, and so I don't think there was a big risk involved because anybody who's paying attention would go ahead and fix it, but I'm probably going to throw some thread locker on that as well. A couple things coming loose on this from time to time. Could be the vibration. There's heavy rifle on it. You know, this is like a 17-pound rifle, but there's still plenty of vibration going through. I'm going to go ahead and turn off this mic, and hopefully you can still hear those hits on the camera at 830 yards as long as I make them. All right, so I went 4 for 5 there, and I'm not ashamed of that. I don't have a bunch of practice doing this off a tripod, and there is still some movement in there. If you can tell, there's still some movement in there, even when it's really locked down pretty hard. Still some movement in that ball head as far as pan goes. Not too bad for, not too bad for forward and rear. I guess I'm trying it out to have the legs forked in the back. Some people say to put one single leg towards your back when you're standing. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not, because it seems like it would change your recoil left or right and give you some bias that way. I just wanted consistent recoil, so I decided to fork the legs in the back like that. And if you know better than me and you know I shouldn't do that, tell me down in the comments how I should be doing it, because I don't really know. But I made 4 out of 5 hits sitting down with just regular old, these are just 175 SMKs. These are not hand loads. This is a $450 barreled action, at least, in a chassis, and it weighs a lot, but there's still a lot of movement going on there. And so on an IPSC target at 830 yards, going 4 for 5 on a fairly windy day, it is switching around a little bit, and then it kind of dies off, and that benefited me a little bit. Made a couple hits in there that were real easy, but my target itself, the pattern on there isn't too bad. It's still like maybe a 13-inch size group for the 4 hits that did make it. And the one that I missed was definitely a wind miss. It was actually off to the left. And so that just right when the wind died, I could tell that's what happened, is I overcompensated there. But anyways, I think it's cool. And yes, it does work really well from a sitting down position. I think for hunting, this would be ideal. It's so steady that, you know, from my group size down there, I could probably schwack a deer in a windless day in the kill zone at 830 yards with this thing. So that's pretty cool. So there you have it, guys. Just a simple video. Just wanted to show you some shooting from a sitting position, just like some people had asked for. And I really liked it. It was very comfortable. I'm 6'5", I'm a little bit taller, so when it's fully condensed all the way down, it's a little bit more natural for me just to shoulder right up to it, exactly how it is at its lowest profile, or at least the lowest profile before you start changing the angle of the legs. But just at this angle right here, it actually works standing, which is really cool. It's one of my favorite things about this. Just being a big guy, a lot of times bigger things are more expensive, and so I didn't want to have to pay the prices of some of the competitors that were, you know, they're tall like this one is, or maybe even an inch or two taller, but at the same time they were like $400 more, sometimes a lot more, sometimes $1,000 more for a similar tripod. I'm sure the quality is very high on those too, but this seems really stable. The quality seems really good so far. A couple things that they might have overlooked, such as Loctiting this Allen inside of here on the Arca head. You know, it's kind of a small thing. It's not huge. So I'm going to go ahead and put some blue on there and make sure it stays tight for a long time. Again, I noticed it when it did loosen up. Another thing was the bubble level. I had to go in and put in some glue into that bubble level underneath and make sure that it was truly level again, because it wasn't properly glued. One update I want to give you guys is that Athlon commented on my previous video, and they did let me know that they were aware of the glue problem with the first, we'll call it batch of these that they had put out. And so apparently that was rectified relatively quickly, so good on Athlon. I love hearing companies that jump into it and just admit the fault of something didn't come out right, and they got on it, they fixed it. And I think it's a fantastic product. It's probably considered a good deal, even though I do think it's expensive. You're looking at right around between $400 and $500, whether it's on sale or you get a deal or something like that. It's expensive for a tripod. Now, I use tripods for a lot of things. I'm using a tripod to film this. I'm using a tripod to shoot. I plan to use it for hunting in the future. And so for me, spending that kind of money, that's a lot of money. And I did not get sent this by Athlon. I didn't get any discounts this time either. I don't really have any connection to Athlon at this point. So I paid full amount, ponied up for it, and I'm happy with it. I'm really happy with its performance. Its quality control seems to be good on the major components, just those minor things. The design itself, guys, is not bad, and even though there wasn't enough Loctite or glue on a couple components here, the rest of the things, especially like the ball head, that's what I'm really concerned about, right? The ball head itself and the clamp seem to be pretty good. I think, you know, I mentioned maybe in my previous video, a little more knurling on this or an aggressive texture would have gone a long ways for me, but I don't think it needs it. I don't think it needs it. I was shooting today and I haven't had this slip at all. I do use really heavy rifles, but some of the rifles that recoil a little bit more, like the other Savage that I was shooting earlier today, this one recoils a little bit more, and you know, it's kind of a stout recoil on this particular rifle. A little bit sharp, and it didn't move out of the clamp, and so I'm really happy with that. No issues at all. I wouldn't really expect it to at the price, you know, but it's just good to know, and so I want to pass that on to you guys. So that's just an update video and just a little bit of usage. Having some fun today. I had a fantastic shooting day today. Shot some of the better groups that I've shot in the last couple years, I think, and no doubt it was on a windy day. I don't know how that works out, but anyways, I had fun shooting off the tripod, getting some practice in, and in a couple months I think I'll give kind of my final thoughts on the product as a whole. But just so you know, I'm having a good experience with it so far. A couple minor fixes, not really concerned about that actually too much. And man, I'm just stoked to have something that actually gets tall enough for a guy like me.